What is up, YouTube? Brandon here. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to do a firing pin block spring mod for the Walther PPQ, which will improve the break of the Walther trigger. This should work no matter if you have an aftermarket trigger or the stock trigger. So first thing to do is to determine if you even need this mod, because apparently some Walthers come from the factory, they don't need this. Mine did, so I'm going to show you what we're looking at. So basically what's happening is this is the firing pin block plunger right here. So what happens is when you pull the trigger comes back, you hit the wall, and then this has to be depressed and overcome by the trigger before it's going to break. In my case, this depression was taking a lot of effort, and so I would feel, as I got to the wall, I would feel the slightest kind of twinge of resistance, which would make me anticipate a little bit before the trigger broke. So I wanted a way to fix that. Unfortunately, I found one, and I'll link the thread that I used for this below. So anyway, first let's determine if you even need this mod. So I've already done mine, but I'm going to show you how to do it anyway. So the first thing you need to do is to determine if this is going to be useful to you. So what you'll do is you'll, obviously make sure the gun's not loaded, and then flip it over, shine a light down here, and unfortunately I don't have a light with me, so I can't show you that, but it's pretty easy. And then you're going to reach down and you're going to depress that plunger that I just showed you. It's pretty easy to see looking down the magazine well. You're going to depress it with something like, for example, a chopstick, and then pull the trigger. If the trigger feels cleaner, a better break when you have the plunger depressed, then this mod will probably help you. If it doesn't feel cleaner with it depressed, then congratulations, you have a good one from the factory and no need to watch further. So let's say we felt better by depressing the plunger. Okay, so what's the problem? Well, the problem is probably that the spring is giving you too much resistance, so we need to replace it. I replaced mine with this, Sodman springs. And I'll link below. Again, unfortunately you have to order 3 at a time, and it's shipped from like Denmark, so it cost 40 bucks for 3 of them, but it is what it is. If you're going to order both the return spring mod, which I've done, and this at the same time, I would recommend getting it both from Sodman, because then you get combined shipping. If you're just buying this, my particular one is this one right here. So this lightened the trigger to about 3.5 pounds, but that's a different discussion. So anyway, let's go about replacing this spring. So again, first thing you're going to do is remove the firing pin. That's pretty easy. Just take a punch, depress this, and then this is going to slide out. And this is under spring tension, so hold it. So we depress, this slides out, and then we just gently let that out. Take the firing pin out, cool. All right, next we are going to push down on this tab right here, this plunger. This is going to release the mechanical extractor, which is holding the firing pin block in place. So you're going to push down on this and you'll feel a nice pop, and you'll see it come out, unless yours is really dirty. And I like to put my finger over here so it doesn't pop out. So we push down. There we go. So you can see that popped out. And this is still under tension, so what I like to do is just wiggle this a little bit out and forward to kind of create some space. Let's see. There we go. So now you can see this is elevated. That means it's been released, so we can just turn it over and it should just fall right out. There we go. So this is our firing pin block, and this is our firing pin block spring, which has already been replaced. The stock one gives quite a bit more resistance than this one. So what I did was I cleaned all this and brushed it with like a brass brush just to clean it all up, make it smooth. So let's show what happens if, let's say hypothetically, you do this and this whole thing comes out, which it will. So the whole extractor comes out. So I just want to show you what to do if that happens. So the extractor fell out. Okay, this spring fell out. Oh, what do? Sometimes this little plunger will even come out. It's no big deal. You can just pop it back in pretty straightforward. So what I did is when I had it disassembled like this, I cleaned everything with brake cleaner, blasted that out, blasted out the firing pin channel, cleaned everything up. All right, so now let's reverse the process. So the first thing you'll do is, where did our spring go? So say everything came out. So we'll take this, put the new spring in. It's got a little cubby for it to sit in, and there's actually a detent at the base of this hole that it needs to sit in as well. So I like to flip it away from me, sorry if it's hard to see, and then you can kind of see one more thing. You want to make sure that the high side of this is facing outward. Otherwise it won't make contact and it won't do its job. So this way you can kind of see and try to guide that spring in. I don't know if you can see that. And you want to guide it in straight. And you just want to make sure, give it a couple pumps up and down. There we go. So it took a little bit for it to nestle in its cubby, but it finally did. You don't want to over torque it, because if it's not nestled in its little cubby, it'll get bent. I bent my first one replacing it, so fortunately I had ordered 3. All right, so next let's put the extractor back on. So we need our extractor spring here, and it'll sit nicely. There's a little cutout for it. There we go. The extractor, this part is going to sit under this pin. So just kind of get it in position, and then you're going to depress the plunger with your finger to protect the spring, and then you're going to push down on this pin to create space, and then it should just slide in. And just be sure. Okay, cool. So it looks like this is now retained, perfect, and it's actuating smoothly. Let's finish the process of pushing the extractor all the way in, and you should hear it click. You can kind of line up the holes. Boom. So our extractor's back. We have successfully replaced the firing pin block spring. Let's just make sure it actuates smoothly, and it does. Perfect. All right, let's put the firing pin back in. Just drop it in there. And this is going to go in this way, and you can see the channels are pretty high up, so just get that in position, kind of deep, and then you're just going to push this in again with your pin. And it's pretty tough spring, so it wouldn't be a video without a mistake happening here. Let's try again. So push that in. There we go. Done. Okay, so we have successfully replaced the firing pin block spring, and now it's going to actuate much easier. And we're back on. Do a little test fire, bring it up to the wall. Smooth. There's no longer any creep. It's just a nice clean brake. So hopefully that helped anyone who's having that little bit of a hitch at the end of their brake, or right before the brake happens on their PPQ. I'll link the threads below along with the springs I used for both the firing pin block spring, which is this one, and then the return spring. All right, any questions or comments, leave them below.